I never made a plan to like take my own life or anything, but I wanted to, 100% wanted to. And I've got 3 kids, I've got a wife, and I kept telling myself, don't do anything stupid. And it took a few more months for Ren to open up Revival Hyperbarics, but I finally got in and was treated by America's Mightiest Warriors, an amazing nonprofit. And I had these withdrawal symptoms the first couple days of doing the dives. And around dive 10, my tremor stopped. My hands stopped shaking. When you finally get those emotions back and you're not a completely numb person, you feel like you can experience joy and you feel like you can experience sadness. And then I end up doing 50 dives and I just felt like a new person. And not to toot my own horn, but like I have three degrees, 2 degrees in engineering, an MBA. Like I was doing some really cool stuff and I felt like cognitively I was there. And then when you go from not even being able to remember that you left your car on when you went inside and find out later that your car has been running for an hour, it sucks. Like,
yeah.
And
yeah.
So I finally felt like I was starting to get back to the person I was before. And I sit down with Ren and Patrick that run Revival Hyperbarics, and I was like, how is it that more veterans don't know about this? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Everyone is just prescribed medication and told to suck it up.
Alex Briggs, welcome to Security Halt podcast. How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. I love running into other individuals that are passionate for a cause and have a unique and amazing story to share about why and how they got involved in this advocacy space. And I saw a clip of your show talking about something that I'm very passionate about, which is blast exposure, TBI treatment, and helping our brothers and sisters realize that it's not always just an explosion or IED or a big major situation. These exposures come from everyday training scenarios that a lot of soldiers are constantly involved in. So today, my man, it's your story, your show. How'd you get involved in this space?
Yeah, that's a great question. And 100% appreciate you having me on here because I feel like these stories need to be told. And I feel like there's veterans out there that are facing these symptoms of TBIs and blast exposures, and they don't even realize that these are symptoms from their time in service. But kind of my story starts a long time ago, like my whole military career. I actually started out working as a civilian for the Air Force, and I was a software engineer. So I got to work on some really cool products. Like I did software for the B-1 bombers, F-16s. A lot of my friends worked on the technology systems behind allowing A-10s to drop 500-pound bombs. And so I was doing that, and my brother, he joined the military and the National Guard, and I wanted to do the same. It took some convincing to allow my wife to let me join, but he had a good experience. He went to Ranger school, became a Ranger, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. So I joined as a 09 Sierra officer. I know. But went through officer candidate school and branched field artillery.
Shit.
So I spent some time behind a gun line and as a fire direction officer.
Yep.
So we work on processing all the fire missions. When they come from the forward observers, they go to us. We process it, do all the math, send it to the gun line, and then the gun line shoots it. So fantastic experience. Got to spend about 1.5 years on the gun line. And then when my brother was competing at Best Ranger competition, got to meet the sergeant major that was going to be over the battalion that was deploying, and got to get in his ear and say, hey, like I'd love to deploy with my brother and get that experience. Like if you have any leeway on getting me on the deployment, I'd love to. And then deployed with a group of fisters and got to have that awesome experience of deploying and living the good life.
What year was this?
Yeah, this was actually recent. So we deployed in 2022.
Oh, wow.
To Syria. Yeah.
Yeah. That's hella recent. Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Good on you. How was it going downrange with your brother, man?
It was really cool. So he stayed in Kuwait for a little bit. I went to Syria. I was in Syria for about 6 months, and then he was ripping into the same place that we were, our mission support site, and we overlapped for about 2 weeks.
Nice.
So I got to do one mission with him before I was out of Syria, but still a really cool experience deploying with someone you care so much about. There's a lot of things with that. Like we had a soldier unfortunately pass away on that deployment, and I was helping out on the staff at the time, and no one would talk to me, and I knew someone had passed away and wasn't around anymore, and I was worried that it was my brother, and going through that guilt feeling of just hoping it was anyone else that passed away other than my brother. And so there's some really good things, but also some really tough things when you get to hear the news that's going on, and you worry for him.
Yeah, that's incredibly hard. Even with close friends, man, that you almost have a little bit of guilt when you're like, fuck anybody else but this guy, anybody else but my homie.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
It's tough.
One. Yeah. So how did the rest of the career go?
Yeah. So a lot of our mission set as Fisters is we're supporting an infantry company. So our main thing that we were doing is we were controlling aircraft when we would go out. At our mission support site, we had roughly about 2 JTACs. Me and my guys were JFOs, Joint Fires Observers, so definitely not as cool as JTACs, but we got to talk to the MQ-9s a lot, and then Apaches. I do a lot of air weapons team requests, and then we'd go outside the wire and control Apaches, and a lot of recon assets to help keep it safe when we would go outside the wire. Mostly looking for like people smuggling weapons, because we're getting rocketed quite a bit. So we were looking for like these barrel systems that they would use to launch the rockets at us on a timer system, or we would just go out and use our optics to look for activity out there or presence patrols. And so my story is we didn't do anything crazy. Like I don't like to think that I'm anyone special or anything, but on one particular mission, we're outside the wire. We were doing some recon, and there was what I called like the deconfliction line of like Assad pro-regime forces on one side and our side. And we weren't really supposed to go past this like deconfliction line. Aircraft wouldn't go past that line either. And we're kind of kicking parallel to this deconfliction line. And I was in a Bradley, and then an explosion went off. And the last thing that I remember is kind of flying through the air, and then just everything went dark. And it was only a few seconds, but I remember I was waking up on top of my buddy that was to my left, and just I couldn't breathe. Like it felt like all the air was out of my body, and there's so much smoke and dust that I just couldn't breathe. And I don't know if you've ever been in a Bradley, but there's this troop hatch on the top, for emergencies, and so my adrenaline kicked in, jumped up, popped open that troop hatch, and like this just flood of air came in. I could finally feel like I was breathing. And the effects of the blast didn't really kick in right away. It was just more adrenaline. And we got really lucky because I had submitted an air weapons team request for what I thought was the most vulnerable point of our convoy. And it happened to be 15 minutes that they were going to check in on station from when we got blown up. So my first thought was like, hey, we need aircraft here right away. So we got on whatever system we had to request those assets. And I was like, hey, you guys need to get here like as fast as possible. Because we didn't know what was going on. And honestly, like in that environment, everything that was happening was like pop shots here and there, and then rockets that would hit us at night. Like, so we weren't like really getting into gunfights or anything. It was just little things like that. And so luckily, like the Apaches were checking in on my net like 10 minutes later. And so I remember that my first thought was like, hey, like we're going to get a huge stack here coming in. So I was trying to get them to to hear me out of like, hey, we need to stay below, coordination level, stay below 2,500 feet and get here as quickly as possible. But then the net was breaking up and couldn't really hear each other that well. And then probably like 3 minutes later, they're back on the net and they're like, hey, we heard you guys hit an IED. Like, is that true? And I was like, hey, firm, like, say when ready for friendly grid, like get here as quickly as you can. And so Apaches got there within like 10 minutes and kept us safe. A lot of the other Bradleys didn't want to come in and to where we were because we were worried about more explosives. And we were honestly safe for the most part. But our whole front of our Bradley was blown up. And so all of the rotor wheels on the side were gone. It blew a hole into the hull of the Bradley, like in the bottom of it. And the whole engine block was gone. And that overpressure came inside the Bradley.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the back left corner and almost like the farthest person away from the blast. But, I'm not an expert in blast waves, but it almost like everything came to the back right where I was sitting. And took about an hour and a half to get CASEVAC'd out of there back to our mission support site. And then we got checked in by some emergency doctors there.
Man, that's a very lucky individual to be here.
Yeah,
because
we got super lucky.
Depending on if it would have been a different munition, if it would have been a bigger charge, this whole story, and it probably ended a whole different.
Yeah,
like that is. Yeah, everybody in the Bradley made it out.
Yeah, luckily, a lot of us just had brain TBIs after that, concussions. Yeah. The EOD guy that was at our mission support site that I was friends with, he said that if it would have hit a foot or two behind where it did, that we all would have died. Yeah. And it just happened to hit in the front right where the engine block absorbed most of it. Mm-hmm. Like there's a 1 or 2 inch thick I-beam that holds the engine. And this, I don't know if you've ever seen in the engine of a Bradley, but it's huge.
Yeah.
And that whole I-beam was bent all the way up, and it's a, multiple inch I-beam that's supporting that engine block. And that whole thing was destroyed.
Yeah. And then comes the aftermath of going through the post blast headaches, light sensitivity.
Yeah.
Of course, just stay in a dark room for a little bit.
Yep. That's what it was. Yeah. The doctor that was at our mission support site, he goes, hey, any treatment you get outside of our mission support site is going to be the same thing. They're going to tell you to lay down, turn off all the lights, don't look at your phone. He's like, we can't give you any medicine because we're worried about brain bleeds. All of you are just going to stay here, which honestly, I was okay with. We were dealing with some difficult personalities on the unit that we were supporting. So I didn't want to leave my guys. I felt like I was kind of a line of defense for them to keep them from the bullshit, to be honest with you. And so the first multiple days was just, hey, lay in this cot and get some sleep, but that doesn't work out like we want it to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So on top of that, we're still in a combat zone. So, we'd get into FECON Delta or something would happen, the radars would kick off because some rockets are coming. So even in that, we'd have to jump in, get in our Bradley, go to, where we're supposed to make sure our mission support site is safe and we're not getting hit by rockets. So it probably wasn't the best environment to stay in. Yeah. But, I don't blame anyone, right? That's just how the cards were played. But
at the end of the day, you're a warrior. At the end of the day, you're at war. And if you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. You can't quarterback it after the fact. And the medical staff they only know what they know. And now there's so much literature. There's so many new things. They don't recommend going in all quiet, blacked out room. That's all been thrown out to the wayside. There's so many things that have advanced, but in the moment, you're still at war. You're alive. let's be focused on that. And tomorrow we're going to need you to go out and carry out. But when you return, it's what a lot of people don't realize is it's something that compounds, and you don't always have like this myriad of symptoms right off the bat that turn your life upside down. Like, no, you're still going to go back on the gun line. You're still going to shoot. You're still going to be exposed to blast exposure. And then you're going to go back and you're going to go train. So what was it like coming out of that deployment? And when did you finally notice like, hey, like I'm still dealing with some issues?
Yeah. Man, there's so many emotions with it too. When you talk about it and bring it up and you look back on it and you don't really regret how things happen, but you kind of wish that you had the knowledge you had now. But
yeah. So
like the first day after the blast, I honestly just felt like I was floating. Like I always say, I don't know how to describe it other than that. Like you're not there, right? You don't realize what's going on. And so then the second day, I'm just laying in my cot in this tent in the middle of nowhere, and I literally felt like someone was grabbing my head and squeezing it, like, and I felt like my head was about to explode, and I wasn't on any pain meds because they were worried about brain bleeds, and they kept a line medic near me just to make sure I was okay, and I asked him to come over. I was like, I'm not doing okay right now. Like, can you take me back to roll 1? Like, I'm dry heaving. I literally feel like I'm about to pass out. I can't, like, my head's spinning. So he took me back to roll 1, and they were checking on me, and they're like, hey, you got some blood in your ears. Have you been scratching at your ears? I was like, no, I haven't touched my ears. They're like, yeah, you must have been scratching at your ears because you got blood in your ears. It's like, I promise I haven't scratched at them. And they're like, all right, well, I think you're past the 24 hours. Let's give you some pain meds. So they gave me some pain meds, and they're like, all right, just go back and sleep. Like, that's all you can do. But I was in so much pain that I couldn't sleep. Like, I didn't sleep what felt like 3 or 4 days. And this was a pretty big incident in the area. And so they sent some psychologists and like trauma specialists from behavioral health over to our mission support site to check on us. And I remember I sat down with them, and he's like, all right, how are you doing? I was like, honestly, my head hurts all the time and I'm just not sleeping. And he's like, okay. And then like, that's all the conversation was. Well, if you need anything, let me know. And I'm like, all right, I'm not sleeping. And he's like, okay, yeah.
All right.
And
his notes just like, scribbles.
I don't think, this was actually January of 2023. And so a lot of things like this weren't really happening at the time. So I think a lot of these people hadn't seen any injuries recently. Yeah. And, post what happened to us, I actually had a lot of friends in Iraq that were getting hit by those suicide drones, all that kind of stuff. And so I think it happened a little bit more in 2023. But I just think people didn't know how to react, to be honest with you. Yeah. So I was on concussion protocol, and it was 2 weeks after the blast that my brother was ripping into where we were in Syria. And so I was like hyper motivated to get off concussion protocol and to try to get outside the wire with him. And so he gets in. I was still on concussion protocol. Like, he's like, at this point, the doctor's like, hey, you need to try to work out, move around, see how your body reacts. But everything I did, I felt dizzy. I just felt like I was going to pass out. And so I'm working out with my brother, and I like literally felt like I was going to fall over the whole time. And he's like, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing okay. Like, I'll be all right. Like, I need to get better so we can go out and do some fun stuff together. And so I probably shouldn't have done it, but I went to the doctors and I was like, hey, I'm good to go. Like, get me off concussion protocol. Let me go outside the wire. And they're like, okay. And they were getting phone calls from like the Pentagon, 4-star generals checking in on us all the time because, an incident like this hadn't happened in a while. Yep. And so I think the doctors were like, yeah, let's get you off concussion protocol. And it would alleviate some of the pressure on their end. So where they're not getting called all the time to check on us. And so I got to go on one mission with my brother and do some recon in the middle of the night and had a wonderful experience. That was one of our more interesting last missions. And the next day, I was actually flying to Iraq. I spent a week in Iraq while we waited for some flights back to Kuwait. And then in Kuwait, just kept seeing doctors there. And, a few weeks into that, I just keep telling them, I'm like, hey, my head hurts all the time. And they're like, all right, well, just take some ibuprofen, take some Tylenol. It's going to take a few months for that to go away. And, as being a soldier, it's hard to admit it, but like I started having PTSD symptoms. I'd lay down in my bed and I couldn't breathe. Like it seriously felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. And I had some dreams of that blast wave hitting me. And I think I had associated being in my bed to pain, just from that time after the blast. And so anytime I got in bed, I'd have this panic attack. I couldn't breathe. And everyone that was around me could like see that my eyes were sunken in and I was just not doing well. And I was so desperate for sleep. I went to the doctor and I was like, please give me sleeping pills. Like, I'm not doing okay. And they're like, you need to go see behavioral health because we can't give you sleeping pills. They're the only ones that can. So went to behavioral health. They still didn't give me sleeping pills, but then made me talk about my panic attacks and all that kind of stuff. And, another couple weeks went on and I finally went to go see one of the PAs that was from our state. And I was like, hey, sir, like, I am not doing good. He's like, I can see it. He's like, you look terrible, to be honest with you. And this whole time, like, I was trying to have a good face for my soldiers, have a good face for everyone, right? Like, I honestly was hiding my symptoms and I didn't want people to really know because I don't know why, like, we get embarrassed about our injuries. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but you don't want to look like you have any vulnerabilities.
Oh, yeah. Vulnerability on the backside of all this, we learn, or we can learn, that is a strength. But when you're living it, when you're not able to perform and do the job of an officer and really live up to your duties and responsibilities, it fucking weighs on you. It weighs on you when you can't be that stud in the team or in the platoon, or that fucking by the book Green Beret that can run and do all the things you're supposed to do. That'll weigh on you. And that pressure, that self-imposed, will fucking kill you. It literally has led guys to do that one thing that we all are trying to fight: commit suicide. Because you are not willing to talk about or be vulnerable enough to talk about the things that you're suffering through.
So he had me go see a different doctor. I went and saw that doctor and told him what was going on, what my symptoms were. And he's like, why did we never send you to Germany right away? He's like, it doesn't make sense to me. And he's like, we need to get you out of here. Like there's really not much we can do for you at this point. Like it's been multiple months. And so the next day I was on a medevac flight to Germany and got to the concussion clinic there, saw the doctors, and I had failed every single balance test. Like I met with a neurooptometrist and they do these, have these cords where you have to look at it and focus your eyes. Yeah. And I failed all of that. Like my vision wouldn't focus. Like I remember I did I don't know if you've ever been on those platforms that move and they test your balance. And you're
brother. You're talking to, I'm a graduate of the STAR program, but it's the same thing. You're surviving, you're walking, nobody can see what's going on. In my case, like it was the same thing. Like, I don't know what's going on in my body. My left eye would not focus. Like what? And I'm just trying to hide it and I'm trying to move forward and everybody sees you like, fuck, why aren't you performing the way you used to? Because you have both your arms, you have both your legs, you're talking, you're fine. On the backside, there's vindication when you go to a TBI clinic and you're like, I lost balance stepping down from the transition steps from my kitchen. It's one step, lose balance and fall down. I couldn't go up my steps to my bedroom to the second floor of my house without falling down. The only vindication you have that there's something cognitively wrong is at these treatment centers. And to think that if you wouldn't have talked to that guy, you wouldn't have been able to go there. You would have missed out on that. And the reality is, how many of our veterans, how many of our brothers and sisters just continue to live life, never understanding that there's something wrong with you and somebody can diagnose it.
Yeah, I'm very grateful. Like that, if I wouldn't have had that conversation, to be honest, I don't know if I'd be here today. Like that was a point where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get help, because I didn't want to leave my soldiers. I didn't want to, and we were dealing with difficult personalities on a deployment, and I just felt guilty about leaving. To be honest with you, I didn't want to, but I knew our deployment was coming to an end, and I needed to go. Was in Germany for a few days. They flew me to Joint Base Lewis McChord, and I got to the concussion clinic there. And I hate to talk ill of a location, but it was terrible there. Like it was terrible. And I think the time that we were in, they were seeing less injuries from combat.
Yeah.
And so the doctors take a mentality of people are faking it and trying to take advantage of the retirement system. And my job is to find those individuals that are trying to fake it. Yeah. So here's me coming into this, and I sit down with the first doctor, and he started like grilling me about every symptom I was having, everything that happened to me. And it wasn't one of those conversations where you can feel like the intent is to help you. It was let me document this or try to catch you on your words so that I can write things down in your medical profile to prove that you're doing okay, or this and that. And so I kept meeting with doctors, and I was on 9 prescriptions for migraines, mental health. Like I had tremors. My hands would shake all the time. The left side of my face would go numb, and then all my limbs would go numb. And the neurologist said it was a symptom of complex migraines. And then they made me meet with a neuropsychologist, because honestly, I think when I started taking all those medications, I got worse, like mental health wise.
Yep.
Way worse. And then on top of that, I was dealing with doctors that didn't believe my symptoms 100%. And so I sat down with this neuropsychologist, and he goes, all right, tell me everything that's happened, your symptoms. And I started explaining. Like first day, I honestly felt like just I was on clouds. And day 2 and 3 and 4, I literally felt like I was dying. And he pulled out this piece of paper that had this chart that showed concussions and how the first day is supposed to be the worst day, and day 2 and day 3, you're supposed to be getting better. And he goes, what you're describing to me doesn't match this chart. So I feel like you're lying to me. And I go, excuse me? He goes, I feel like you are trying to take advantage of the situation. He's like, you didn't come here for like 3 months post blast. And now you're here all of a sudden trying to take advantage of the government and hoping you can retire and get all these benefits. He's like, what you're saying doesn't match this chart. And I feel like it's my job to find those individuals that are lying and catch them on the lie. And I was like, no, your job is to help veterans. Your job is to help people. Nowhere in your job description does it say catch people that are lying about their symptoms. And so I start bawling in this meeting because I was feeling guilty about leaving my soldiers. I was feeling guilty about not being in the fight with them. And this a-hole guy is just, yep, you're faking it. And so I called my wife, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing okay. Like, and I'm dealing with people that don't believe me. And the thing that doesn't make sense to me is I had gotten, a Purple Heart from what had happened. I have all these medical records from the blast, and they still didn't believe me.
Yeah.
And at this point, one of my soldiers from when I was on the line battery with Paladins texted me, and he's like, hey man, I heard you got blown up. Like, I just want to let you know I'm thinking of you, which meant a lot to me. And then I got another text from another soldier I served with, and he's like, hey, I have a friend. His name is Ren Murray, and he's opening up this place called Revival Hyperbarics. Like, you need to talk to him. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And this was right at the time where that doctor told me I was faking it and lying. And I had known Ren's 18 Alpha. He was going to be our graduation speaker at Officer Candidate School. And in 2017, when they lost their teammate Aaron Butler, like I had been doing the Aaron Butler runs to every year growing up in Idaho. And so I was like, oh yeah, I know of Ren, but I don't know him. And Ren called me and he's like, you're experiencing this symptom, this symptom, this symptom, this symptom, and this symptom. And he described me perfectly. Like, you have no emotions, your head hurts all the time, you can't sleep, you have memory fog, you can't remember things. And I told him, I was like, hey man, like I'm just this conventional guy. Like, you're this badass Green Beret that's been through a lot. Like, honestly, like I didn't do anything cool on my deployment. Like, I appreciate you like reaching out and telling me that you can help, but like I'm no one special. And I remember he told me, he's like, stop, like quit thinking that just because you're a conventional guy, like you don't deserve help. He's like, you got blown up, man. Like, accept help when it's here for you. Like, we can help you. He's like, I've been in your shoes. I've been completely numb with no emotions. Like, just accept it. Like, we will treat anyone that is out there that needs help, but don't think that because you're not getting treatment, someone else is going to get it. Like, we will treat everyone. And, that week, like I had some really dark moments. Like, I never made a plan to like take my own life or anything, but I wanted to, 100% wanted to. And I've got 3 kids, I've got a wife, and I kept telling myself, don't do anything stupid. Don't even think about it because you don't want to traumatize your kids or your wife. And so at that moment, I was like, I'm done. I'm leaving Joint Base Lewis McChord. I'm going home. I'm getting my own treatment. And then that came with other problems because now Joint Base Lewis McChord knew I was going back to my home unit. They called my home unit and tell them that they thought I was faking it. So then all the leadership in my battalion that I was faking it. Like, they straight up told me that, oh yeah, Joint Base Lewis McChord called us and told us that we thought you were faking it and the timelines don't match up. Like, why didn't you get help for the 3 months after the blast? Like, why did you deny care? If you're really wanting to get better, why are you denying care? And that was just sending me down a more dark spiral of not being okay. And it took a few more months for Ren to open up Revival Hyperbarics, but I finally got in and was treated by America's Mightiest Warriors, an amazing nonprofit. I know Ren, when he was on your podcast, mentioned them. Like, I owe them my life, and I owe Ren at Revival Hyperbarics my life. And the first day after I did my first dive, I quit all my prescriptions, all 9 of them. And I had these withdrawal symptoms the first couple days of doing the dives. And around dive 10, my tremor stopped. My hand stopped shaking.
Wow.
And then around dive 20 or dive 25, I got in my car and I was leaving and I just started bawling. And I know Ren had a similar experience, but like, when you finally get those emotions back and you're not a completely numb person, you feel like you can experience joy and you feel like you can experience sadness. And that was probably one of the most life-changing moments in my recovery, is having that feeling. And then I ended up doing 50 dives and I just felt like a new person. And not to toot my own horn, but like, I have three degrees, 2 degrees in engineering, an MBA. Like, I was doing some really cool stuff and I felt like cognitively I was there. And then when you go from not even being able to remember that you left your car on when you went inside and find out later that your car has been running for an hour, it sucks. Like,
yeah.
And
yeah.
So I finally felt like I was starting to get back to the person I was before. And I sit down with Ren and Patrick that run Revival Hyperbarics, and I was like, how is it that more veterans don't know about this? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'll tell you.
Everyone is just prescribed medication and told to suck it up.
Yeah. Alex, I share the same sentiment. But you and I and a vast majority of our veterans, not all of us, and I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but for me, it was being met with that like definitive proof after neurological psychologist battery of tests, and they say like, hey, here's proof of your cognitive decline. Here's a printout, shows where you are. Within having like met with that like sheer like understanding of like, oh fuck, now I know there's something really fucking wrong. There's something really fucking wrong. There's a test that shows and it proves it. I'm not crazy. You have that period of grief because like, fuck, okay, now am I going to be fucking mashed potato brains for the rest of my fucking life? Is this it? Like, no, we're unique and we're different, and you will adapt. You're still going to have shit memory. I'm just didn't realize it, but you give yourself grace. You understand, like, I still can't find my wallet. I had a whole fucking morning trying to find my wallet today, but you know, you get Apple AirTags. What I'm trying to say is you figure out how to adapt and build new frameworks for the deficits you have. But I got reading back. I couldn't read to the point where I was just highlighting everything, trying to like write everything out. I just had a gentleman on, Todd Strafer, and I was talking about like finally being given like the operator syndrome white paper study and then printing it out and having to highlight every section that applied to me, not because I was like, oh, I'm going to be prepared, but because I had to focus that much to read it and retain it, highlight these areas so I could advocate for myself finally. Because just like those people at Lewis were so ready to throw you under the bus and say you're a fucking liar, it happens to almost every veteran I was talking to. And then you have to turn to other alternative modalities to find true healing and some sort of peace. And when you dig into hyperbarics, you find two camps, two very definitive camps. The veterans that are feeling and have like real world peace and treatment and recovery from it, and academia that are saying that there's not enough proof, not enough studies. Why is it that you're not taking into account these people whose lives are being changed, who have been given their lives back? Like, you're going to sit here and study and say there's no proof. Go study the fucking veterans whose lives are being changed. Go study those. Sit down in that space. Why does it feel like it's being manipulated?
It's a money thing.
I used to think peer-to-peer or peer-reviewed journals in scientific research was the standard. That's what I used to think. Now I realize, being back in school, being back in college, understanding that somebody pays for these studies.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them, you can go find this out yourself right now. Go to Google Scholar and look up these studies and then do the work to find out who's funding the research. The same people who are also benefiting from their pharmaceuticals being prescribed to you at the VA, being given to you for free in those giant brown boxes and paper bags that you get on a monthly basis. So is it really advantageous for them to come out and say that this non-pharmaceutical treatment model is something that we should be putting in every VA hospital for our veterans? Or is it more advantageous for them to say that, no, it's not helpful and it's anecdotal at best? That's a fucked up part.
It's so tough because there's so much money behind it. I don't think the system will change. Like, I know I'm being pessimistic, but I literally had multiple gallon size Ziploc bags full of medications and strong medications. Like, I remember one of the doctors I saw was like, there's a ton of chemicals in your body right now, and that's not good for you.
Yeah.
But
some of the things that they don't tell you about is that medicine A is going to interact with medicine B, and it might give some of the side effects are you're going to demonstrate behavior that's commonly viewed as schizophrenic. Like, what the fuck? Saw that with some of my veteran friends. Like, oh, now he has to get treated for schizophrenia. One doctor out of 7 was willing to go by line all the medications and say, like, no, this is not schizophrenia. This is a reaction that's happening because these medications are interacting with these medications, and he shouldn't be taking them in combination. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah.
It's terrible. It's tough because, you know, here's people like us that want to bring this to light, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have zero financial motivation in anything that I do, but my hope is that if we can reach one veteran, one first responder
Yeah.
that hears this and he says to himself, that sounds a lot like me, and decides to go and reach out to someone in the hyperbaric space, reach out to our nonprofit and get help, to me, that is what I want. I want that one person that we help that was in the same shoes as me, that doesn't want to live anymore, that goes and gets treatment and has their eyes open to that life can be like what it was before
Yeah.
the, you know, the microblasts that they face, before any head injury or anything like that.
Yeah. It's the single greatest injury. It's a signature injury of our GWAT era, traumatic brain injury. And it doesn't have to be an ID strike. It can be from training. It can be it's not one exposure. It's all of the exposures. And my story is a testament of it. Now, how do I explain to somebody what's going on where I wasn't blown up by a fucking ID, yet this is my story too. And for countless of my brothers in the soft world, it's their story as well. And for the 11 Charlie, the artilleryman, this is your story as well. Like it's the repeated exposure to these blasts, and you have to get smart. Nobody else is going to come in and advocate for you. So you have to be willing to ask yourself, hey, am I really dealing with just a headache, or are these fucking migraines? Like, am I just a klutzy, clumsy person, or am I just dealing with vestibular issues? And if your eyes aren't focusing like they should, stop being prideful and ask for fucking help. It'll only get better when you start asking for help. Please, if you haven't taken anything from this episode, take this. The time of swallowing your pride and just moving forward has to end. Ask for help, man. There's a better life out there for you. There's better days out there. All you got to do is find that vulnerability within you and say, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this anymore. I'm going to get help. People are more spun up now more than ever. We have resources. And if you don't know where to go, hit up Alex or hit me up. Alex,
100%.
where can we go? Where can we go to find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, so we try to be a little bit more unique compared to some of the nonprofits that I've worked with. Just like you mentioned, there's so many first responders and veterans that are injured through training exercises, right? Like even microblast exposures from mortarmen, right? You got those 13 or 11 chucks that are humping rounds. You know, all of these combat MOSs that are all near these microblasts all the time. And a lot of nonprofits only treat like combat wounds, right? You have to show some type of combat wound. And so when I sat down with Ren and Patrick at Revival Hyperbaric and kind of had this coming to Jesus moment of other people need this, that's when I decided to start Silent Wounds and Warriors Foundation. And our goal is to help people that don't meet that combat criteria. Of course, we'll treat anyone that's a combat veteran and was hurt in combat, but there's a lot of nonprofits out there that we can push you to. But our goal is to treat any veteran or first responder that has had a TBI. It could be like even just someone that's airborne qualified that jumps and hits their head, right? Or like, let's say where there's a firefighter that goes into a house and something happens and he has a brain injury, right? There's a huge gap there that we from a nonprofit want to help those people that don't meet those unique criteria. So we have kind of a more broad acceptance of who we help. If you're a first responder, if you're a veteran, if you've had a traumatic brain injury and you have PTSD, we will treat you. We will pay for your hyperbaric treatment. And there's such a gap in that sphere, right? Like we're helping this guy that's on a SWAT team. He's a breacher right now. He's doing dives as we speak this week. And I got on the phone with them and he described the same symptoms that I was facing. He's like, man, I'm just numb. Like, I feel like I can't go and talk to my boss about this because then they're going to take me off and I won't have that money coming in for my job. Like, there's also another aspect to this of the culture of like people not wanting to speak up because they're worried about how their leadership will take it. They're worried about looking like that crazy guy that goes and talks to someone from behavioral health or They're worried about losing their livelihood.
Yeah.
So we want to get you back to where you were before, to where you're good to go and you can keep providing for your family and keep chugging along.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, Alex, I can't thank you enough for being here today, man. What's the name of your show, by the way? How can people
it's Silent
tune
Wounds
in?
and Warriors podcast. And then also you can find us on silentwoundsandwarriors.com or look us up on Instagram, Silent Wounds and Warriors. Reach out to me. If you ever are just down and want to talk to someone, please shoot me a message. I'd love to chat.
There you go. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Go ahead and do me a favor. Pause the episode, go to episode description, click on all those links right there, send a friend request to Alex, and tune into the show. Learn something about blast exposure and hyperbaric treatment, because I have a feeling that it can help you. It's not just, my main thing is getting you the help you deserve for blast exposure, TBIs, but you can get it right now for just anything. Honestly, if reach out, talk to Alex, or go straight to Revival Hyperbarics and check them out. That link will also be there. Thank you all for tuning in. Alex, again, thank you for being here, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.